Good evening and welcome back to Cannon Chatter. Well, what can I say? I don't even know where to start right now. It's all going crazy on Twitter, obviously with the news of Newcastle putting in a bid and potentially having a bid accepted for Bruno Guimaraes of Lyon. But yeah, so we're definitely going to be covering that at some stage in tonight's show, along with obviously the news that Vlahovic is more or less on the verge of signing for Juventus as expected. But first of all, I'm going to come to you, Stephen. Stephen, how are you?
Yeah,
mate.
do you know what? I was okay. Then I woke up this morning. I was in quite a good mood.
Yeah.
Then as the day went on, the more and more I read on Twitter, the more annoyed I was getting.
Yeah.
Then I tried to sort of think, right, well, we're going to do a show tonight. I'm gonna cheer myself up. I'm gonna be in a good mood. Then I got annoyed again. Then I cheered myself up again. And now in the last sort of half hour, I've kind of gone, what's going on?
Yep.
So it should be an interesting show. I'm just trying to organize a guest here at the minute. I'm just speaking to someone to potentially get someone to come on and have a wee chat transfers with us in a few minutes. But yeah, I don't know what to make of it all. I really don't.
No,
I'm in shock.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, I'm the same. I was kind of a bit of a roller coaster of emotions, to be honest, because you know what it was? It's not that I was, you know, what can I say, smack on that, Vlahovic was going to sign for Arsenal. It wasn't that. Because I even went on the Armory TV a couple of days ago, I think it was last week, and I was asked by Gumza on there, what do you give the odds of that transfer? And I said, you know what, probably like 60-40 or 70-30 against us, when realistically, from all the reports, we were never even in the running for that player, Vlahovic. He had his heart set on Juventus, him and his agent, and that's that. But nevertheless, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, he's rubbish, and I'm glad he never signed. I was disappointed, and I've been pretty disappointed. So far this year, I've been a little bit down and disappointed with obviously the performances, with the lack of transfer activity. So yeah, today was a little bit like that, but I kind of got myself out of a hole. I thought, yeah, we're going to do tonight's show. And then, like you said, about half an hour ago, the news of Newcastle's bid for Bruno has somewhat kind of thrown me back into disarray. So yeah, I'm a bit all over the place at the moment. But you know what? We've got a show to do. So I'm going to run the intro video. We're going to briefly talk about the Burnley game, and we are going to keep it brief tonight because obviously the game was a while ago. We're mainly going to talk about generally the performance as a whole and obviously the reasons why we never came away with 3 points. So, yeah, I'm going to get started. See you on the other side, guys.
Arsenal have gone through an entire league campaign without losing. The first time it's happened.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Cannon Chatter TV. We are here tonight. Wasn't our usual opening to the show. Wasn't very composed. Wasn't very put together. But we're just kind of reacting from what everybody is talking about and seeing at the moment happening on Twitter, which is obviously the bid that's rumored to be accepted from Newcastle for Bruno Guimaraes. But yeah, tonight, we are here to talk all things Arsenal. That includes obviously the review of the Burnley game, which took place at the weekend. So we're going to be talking about that very briefly. We're also going to be conversing about Mikel Arteta's trip to America to see Stan Kroenke and a potential contract being readied for him before the end of the season. And of course, we're going to be talking transfers. We're only 6 days left until the transfer window ends. But before we do that, we're going to go to the comments because they're firing in already. So we've got here Swearit. Hi, Swearit. It's been a little while. We interacted and spoke on Twitter. So really, really good to have you back. Good evening, Keith. Keith says here, Swearit. Hi, Swearit. Is it Swearit? I want to pronounce it right. Hey, Swearit. How's things, mate? Swear it responds, all good here. Keith, good evening, Keith. Hi, guys. Come on, you gunners. His name's Cal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Cal.
Yeah, Cal here. Good evening, Cal. Good to see you again. Evening all. Evening, Cal. Vizzy PhD. Edu going full clown mode. Well, boy, we're going to be talking transfers in tonight's show. That's for sure. Keith, when agent don't answer your phone calls, move on, 100%. And we're going to be discussing that Vlahovic deal tonight because I somewhat have a bit of a different perspective on it in terms of like, I know a lot of Arsenal fans are like, you know, Arsenal wasted their time for like the last 3-4 weeks. And I have a somewhat of a different perspective. So we will be discussing Vlahovic very briefly in tonight's show. Nicholas Bentner's underpants. Evening to you. Cow again, we're just not as attractive as we once were. We could use 6 out of 10 second string strikers if we can't get 10 out of 10 one. And lastly, Barry, good evening, Barry. Hi all. Right, so let me just take that last comment off the screen. But last one's just fired in. Mark, good evening, Mark. Bruno G going to Newcastle sums our window up. Well, let's just hope that it's not actually gonna happen. Let's just hope it's not gonna happen. But yeah, we're gonna start basically where we planned to start before all the madness happened on Twitter, and that was with the weekend's game. Now, obviously, you know, this is not what we all want to discuss. You know, there are pressing matters, but we're going to just briefly kind of sum up the performance. I'm going to bring this picture up on the screen for you, Stephen. Now, I can't even tell you at what minute this was, but I'm just going to briefly say I didn't watch the game live. I watched the highlights, which were, you know, very minimal in terms of like 3 or 4 minutes. And what really struck me was I can't really comment on the performance across 90 minutes in real time. But what struck me is that the vast majority of those highlights were Arsenal chances that we failed to put away. So I thought no better fitting than to put this image up because I thought this chance was probably one of the most you know, easier of the chances that should have been buried during that game. So, you know, at home to Burnley at the weekend, a real chance to cement or further cement a top 4 spot in this year's Premier League, and we drew 0-0. Sum up the performance for me before you take a long sip on your alcoholic beverage.
The first thing I want to ask is, where did you find 4 minutes of highlights?
I literally Googled Arsenal versus Burnley, and if you put that in Google, it literally comes up with the Premier League highlights. Because I was going to look at timelines and incidents, and I thought to myself, you know what? I'm just not going to bother because, yeah, from what I've gathered, it was a very kind of, eventless 90 minutes. But yeah, you'll probably be able to give me more of a perspective.
To be fair, I kind of missed. I missed the first 20. Well, I say I missed. I'm not sure I did miss anything. But I didn't see the first 25 minutes because obviously the boys have rugby training on a Sunday from 12 to 1, or sorry, from 1 to 2. Yeah. So, you know, I got back about 20 minutes after kickoff. Genuinely, it was dull, boring, lifeless. I sat here because obviously I had to stream it because it wasn't on any of the sort of TV channels. I streamed it on my phone, and usually, obviously, if I'm streaming, I'll be watching it on Twitter or whatever, and streaming it through the computer. But I couldn't get it to work on the computer, so I was streaming it through the phone. And normally, as I say, if I'm on there, I'll be on the phone at the same time. I really was lost because I didn't know what to do while the match was on because it was that dull. I ended up picking up my work phone and doing some work stuff during the game. It was just so boring. We kept throwing crosses into the box. You know, we had one route, which was go down the wings, throw crosses in, and there was no one in the middle.
Yep.
You know, absolutely nobody in the middle. And the one time we did have someone in the middle, which was Laka, he put it wide, and that kind of summed up the whole performance. You know, I've seen a lot of people saying that, you know, they're suddenly jumping on the Arteta out bandwagon again. Because we haven't had a win, you know, in the last 5. and this football doesn't create chances. We're not. We created 33 chances in that game.
Yep.
So the fact that we didn't score a goal, I'm sorry, but it's not on Arteta. It's on the players that are on the pitch. Now, when we get clear-cut chances like Lacazette had in that picture, that should be bread and butter for a top-quality striker.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think, obviously, everybody's so disappointed about not getting Vlahovic. I'm wondering, are we actually going to get someone who can put the ball in the back of the net? So it's tricky. It's difficult. But it was not a great game to watch. And to be honest with you, I was kind of glad I got the full time. The only thing I kind of thought was, I'm going to have to sit and talk about this at some point.
Yeah.
And that was like, how am I going to find things to chat about? And in some ways, I'm kind of glad so much has happened in terms of transfers and other news, because it's taken away from the fact that was a dull game. There really isn't an awful lot to talk about on it.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here and I'm trying to remember back to memorable moments.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I have to say, though, that the highlights that Sky Sports put together made it look a lot more interesting than it was then, because they really did kind of probably jam pack all the exciting parts, because it really looked like it was a dominant performance from us. It looked like, we were creating quite a few chances. It looked like the only reason why we didn't come away with the 3 points was the fact that, we couldn't actually, be clinical in front of goals. So, but yeah, to be honest, the game's done. For me, having not watched the game, I was at work. I was gutted because I was following the scoreline on Twitter. I was following, whether or not what the chances, what was going on, and it seemed pretty eventless. There wasn't much, going on in terms of on the timeline. At the same time, on reflection, it was a massive, massive missed opportunity. With the likes of obviously Chelsea, Chelsea beating Spurs. Obviously Man United getting a late winner in their game. It was a real opportunity to kind of, like, don't get me wrong, we're still only 2 points, from fourth spot with a game in hand. At the same time, it would have been a great weekend, to get an extra 2 points and just kind of further cement our spot, in the mix for that fourth spot. So yeah, very, very disappointing. But look, we'll head to the comments and then we'll move on very briefly, because I know there's tons to get through and there's a lot more kind of pressing topics at this present moment that, fans are going to want to get their teeth into. So we've got here Keith. Good evening, Keith, again. Not going to the Geordies unless he wants to. Mark Green saying money talks, I suppose. Cal here. I just wouldn't go to Newcastle given an alternative option in the Prem. We've got Keith. Ref's face says it all, really, in that image. Swear it. It was just frustrating to see Arsenal not scoring goals despite of all those chances, max corners and max possession. Cow again, question. Do you guys get in trouble if the show match? Oh, do you guys get in trouble if you show match clips?
Yeah.
I don't know.
We do.
Copyrighted, isn't it?
Yeah, we can't do it.
Yeah, no problem. Stephen's answered that question. Martin, here's Martin. Guns Force Edits. Big him up for all the kind of graphics that he puts together for us. Cross after cross after cross, but lack of position. He is playing DM. No one in the box. And when he gets in the box, he misses a sitter. Jay Gillian, never seen a ref with a lack of reaction to time wasting. That is something that was spoken about in a lot of the kind of match reaction from fans, which I didn't really see myself where I watched the highlights. Anything to comment on that one, Stephen?
What was that, sorry?
This one here about the refs basically reluctance to basically criticise or punish the Burnley players.
Do you know what? It bothers me because you see, I've seen the Arteta people especially saying, I'll get Sean Dyche.
Yeah.
The man is anti-football. He really is.
Oh, Dyche. I've not seen that one. Wow.
He's anti-football. The time wasting was unbelievable. They were time wasting, I think, for about the 6th or 7th minute. Taking as long as they could possibly get away with to take a free kick or a goal kick or whatever it should be. That was shocking. Absolutely shocking. I mean, Arsenal, the players were complaining about it. The managers, Arteta was complaining about it. You seen, everybody up and around the fans. Yeah. You could hear the fans' reaction to the amount of time it was taking. I think Jamie was at the match actually as well. So he'd be able to tell you the time wasting was crazy.
Cool. Thank you for that. Mark Green here. If we don't buy a striker, things will get toxic very quick. Listen, if we don't pull our finger out over the next 6 or 5 days, it's going to be hella toxic. It really is, because I think even for the most, rational Arsenal fan like myself or you, Stephen, or those, the guys in the chat that watch our shows, we can see what the issues are. We can see the areas of the pitch that need addressing. And we can also see players that are available and also willing to potentially come to the club. So it's like, yeah, it's gonna get pretty toxic pretty quickly. It's on its way there already, to be honest. Swear it here. We better get a striker. God forbid if either of Laka or Nketiah gets injured. It'll be difficult for Arsenal unless Uber gets another chance. We're going to probably talk a little bit about Uber if we can, just because I know I've seen whispers and opinions on Twitter about should he be reintegrated at some stage if we don't buy a striker, which at the moment is not looking likely. Nicholas Bentner's underpants, here he is again. Diego Costa is currently available on a free. I think he's actually signed a contract.
Don't know if he's signed, but I think he's agreed to deal with a Brazilian club.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I think it's Corinthians. I might be wrong, but I've definitely seen some rumors about him having a verbal agreement with a Brazilian club. I think you're right, Stephen. Cal here. Costa must be better than Leno up front. No problem. Right. So the next thing we're going to move on to is this gentleman here, Mikel Arteta himself. And obviously, I think it was over the weekend. I think it was either during the Burnley game or after the Burnley game, or I think it might even have been yesterday. But rumours broke, I think, in one of the kind of national newspapers that Arsenal are considering or readying, or there is even a contract renewal on the table for a further 2 to 3 years. Now, I put this image up because I just thought it was fitting. It was one of those where it's like Arteta's looking at, he's obviously something's happened and he's gone, like, what is this? I don't really know. And I thought it would just be fitting in terms of what we're discussing here. Now, I'm going to reserve my opinion. I'm going to give you a go first, seeing as I'm hosting. But what is your general... First of all, when the news broke, just tell me what your gut, natural reaction or instinct was. Forget how you're feeling right now. When the news broke, how did you feel?
I thought to myself, is he coming back out of retirement? Because he's not the central midfielder we need to be giving contract to right now. Genuinely, at the time, my first thought was, I don't get the timing of it.
Yeah.
Why they're coming out and saying this now? Are they trying to deflect away from what's going on in the transfer window?
Yeah.
Because it's not really the time to be talking about it. And even the reports have said they're going to offer him at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Well, fine, break the news at the end of the season when he's being offered it. Yeah. Why do we need to know about it now? In terms of whether he deserves it or not, I think I would have reserved judgment until the end of the season as well, to see how things go. Obviously he's another season left on his deal after the end of this one. We know that. So, in theory, he's got another 12 months on top of the rest of this season. So I'd like to see, and we've talked about this before, we need to see progression.
Yeah.
We have to be realistic and say, right, we never came into this season thinking that we were going to win the league. Yeah. For the majority of us, we kind of thought, well, if we could get Europe, it would be progression.
Yeah.
We're now getting annoyed because we've got a chance of top 4.
Yeah.
And we potentially could let it slip by not getting the right signings. And then it's, so we keep changing our own goalposts as to what we think is acceptable and what we think is progression. But for me, the big thing is we have to see the progression, and we won't know until the end of the season just how far we've progressed. Yeah. So for me, I'd have held off until the end of the season before looking at that. Potentially even in the next season. The only thing I can think of is now is there sort of murmurs in the background that maybe other clubs are looking at him. We've heard that before, that potentially City are sort of talking about him as the taking over from Pep when he goes, and you just don't know. But I think the timing of it's very strange. It really is, in terms of whether he deserves it. as I say, I'd hold judgment till the end of the season. Right now, I can see a change in the culture at the club.
Mm-hmm.
I can see what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think if you can't see what he's trying to do, I don't think you necessarily. I don't want to say you don't understand football. That's not right. But if you can't see what he's trying to do, I don't think you'll ever see it.
Mm.
Whether he can achieve what he wants to achieve and what he's trying to do is a different question. Whether he's got the capabilities of getting there, it's one of them things we just don't know yet. So as I say, I would have personally left it to the end of the season. And talked about it then.
Yeah, definitely. For me, that was my first kind of initial reaction was, why now? It just didn't make any sense. Given the the way our in terms of the outcome of the season is practically on the knife's edge. It can go one of two ways. We could all be sitting here in a couple of months, absolutely, jubilant because we've made top four, or we could be sitting here saying, you know what, I really can't see the progression from last season, given the fact that we finished, 7th or 8th again. So yeah, the timing is a bit crazy, and I think also given the fact that we are in the midst of a transfer window when fans are obviously eagerly, anticipating what signings are going to be made by the club, and also the form of the team as well. I know we've discussed this in a couple of our shows, and we tried to put some rationale behind it in terms of who we've been playing, but we have recently been knocked out of 2 cup competitions in the space of 2 weeks. We've scored 1 goal. We've had more red cards than goals scored, and we're not. We were in a really good run. December this year so far. The team's not in a good run, and yes, we have played City once. We played Liverpool twice. But we've also drawn to 0-0 to Burnley in a game we should have won, and we've been knocked out by Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup. So, while at the end of last year everything was pretty positive, it does feel like it's somewhat kind of slipped recently. So the timing of this leak or the timing of this contract renewal, if it happens, is a bit strange for me. So I have to agree with you. I still say, regardless of my expectations, being lifted or me being more optimistic, I still think, Arteta and Arsenal finishing top 6. And when I say top 6, I predicted or I wanted us to finish either 5th or 6th, because I feel like that would in a way show evidence of progression. We've had 2 seasons back to back of 8th place finish. So if we were to get back into Europe, for me, finishing between 5th and 6th, that would be what I would expected. Now that's somewhat changed, obviously due to the way the league seasons panned out. But I'm starting to feel like maybe top 4 was just a bit too adventurous at this stage. And I'm starting to kind of prepare myself that, this top 4 finish is probably not going to happen, and we probably may well have to settle for a 5th or 6th. Now, at that stage, I'm not sure I would be calling for him to be replaced. But if he doesn't, by the end of the season finish 5th or 6th in the league, for me, he has to go. Because at that point, I have to question what progression has been made. Because the first season, he wasn't there for the entirety of the season. Last season, he was, albeit COVID, etc., but he finished 8th. He's had another full season, a full pre-season. If he finishes 8th again, given the money he spent, given the time at the club, for me, it would be time to move on. So, yeah, the timing's weird for me. And I think any contract renewal, really and truly, from the owner should be based on what position he finishes this season. So, yeah, that's generally my opinion. We'll go to the comments because I know some of you have got an opinion on, obviously, this contract renewal. So Martin's saying here, no way should he have been given a new deal until we see how this season pans out and is finished. Matt here saying hello to everyone. Hello, Matt. Martin again, imagine we give him a new deal and he finishes 8th again, then surely he has to go. And yeah, that's basically, Matt Martin is agreeing exactly with what we've both said. The timing's a bit weird, and it should come at the end of the season once we know where we finish in the league. Keith here, end of season, definitely. I'm not going to say your name again because I said it twice. But Nicholas Bentner's underwear, I'm going to say. Who would want him? Everton, maybe. Well, you know what? You just don't know. I have heard rumours, like Stephen said, about Man City particularly being interested, although I do feel like that's a bit far-fetched, but you just never know in the world of football. Gary, good evening, Gary. Good evening, G and Stephen. Getting my pre-therapy sessions in before the window closes. Laugh out loud. Cal here. Yes, I agree. Can't see City thinking he'd manage them. Cal again. As Arsenal fans, we're here again. Think it's others being poor, not us being good. Why we are where we are? And we had a good run. Looked like we were moving forwards. Keith here, outside top. He must be gone ASAP. And he's referring to top 6. And Cal says Emery did better. Okay. Now, I don't know if you want to, because I know you potentially have a guest lined up. The other things that I wanted to cover was Mikel Arteta's trip to the States. And then I wanted to touch upon a little bit of Aubameyang and then go on to transfers. Are you all right for me to run through that?
Yeah, keep going with that.
No problem. So obviously the next thing I'm going to bring, you actually brought this to my attention this morning when I was waking up, and you said to me, we do definitely need to have a conversation about this. So obviously in the picture here, it was kind of all over Twitter, but I hadn't really had a chance to kind of log in and have a look. But in this picture, you can see here, Mikel Arteta is obviously in the presence, met up with, we don't really know the circumstances as to why, with Stan Kroenke. Who's the gentleman in the middle? Do you know his name?
Don't know. It looks a bit like John W. Henry, the owner of Liverpool.
I don't know.
But I don't think it is.
Know. Yeah. So he obviously, on his way to Dubai, stopped off to meet up with Stan Kroenke, the owner. Now, he could be there for a host of reasons. What I hope he's there for is to be talking transfers and basically be saying to this geezer, look, this is what we need. We have a real opportunity here to finish top 4. This is what we need, and this is what's going to get us there. So, I need you to, somewhat free up some funds. What is your kind of perspective, with this? Obviously, he's on his way to the kind of, mid-season break, training camp in Dubai. But realistically, what do you think they could be meeting about to discuss at this point in the season that they couldn't have just discussed over the phone? Or do you think it's just an opportunist moment that they're in the same area and they thought they'd just, get together and have a couple of beers?
No, he has to be there to talk about money. Has to be. Unless he's there to talk about his new contract. Yeah. That would be the only other thing. But you'd think at this point for him, being the sort of manager he is, I don't think his own contract would be first and foremost in his mind this week. I think this week he's there talking about money. He needs to know, are you going to back us with the money we need to buy the players we need to buy? Obviously, we've lost out in the Vlahovic deal. The rumor is we're going for Isak. They're trying to potentially want to negotiate a deal for him, but if we can't negotiate it, can they walk into the league offices on Monday and drop 75 million euro or whatever it is to take a 6 release clause, as well as potentially then having money to spend on a midfielder and a goalkeeper. You just don't know, but I would have to say he's there for money. I can't see any other reason. The timing of it just doesn't make sense. Yeah. Unless if you look at it and you see where all of Stan Kroenke's franchise teams currently are sitting. The Rapids are number 1 or finished number 1 in their section in the MLS. The Avalanche are number 1 in their group. The Rams are in the they're in the divisional playoff final, so they're 1 game away from the Super Bowl, and they've got a good chance of winning that and getting into the Super Bowl, where they're going to get beat by my Kansas City Chiefs, but that's not the point. So the rest of his teams are doing really well. Yeah, and Arsenal aren't. Now, I said this before in terms of the likes of the Rams. He employed a good young coach at the Rams, and he's backed them with money. And I know you're not a big American football fan, and probably me saying all of this doesn't mean a lot to you, but he's brought it. He's given them the money to bring in some big names, and they're seeing the rewards from it. He's kept faith with his young coach.
Okay.
You know, the coach of the Rams is, I think he's the youngest in the league, or certainly was the youngest in the league when he got to the Super Bowl a couple of years back. So, you know, he has a history of backing young managers.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, Arteta fits the profile of what Stan Kroenke likes to do. Yes, he probably can get away with paying them less, and that probably suits him, but he does back them. And, you know, we say that, you know, he's owned the club for so long and all that sort of stuff, but at the same time, he's only owned the club for 3 years outright.
Yeah.
And as I've said
right
before,
ownership, yeah.
If you own part of a company, you're not going to invest your own money making that company more expensive to buy for yourself.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So, you know, and we're seeing, you know, albeit he hasn't probably sunk a lot of his own money into the club. I'm not sure the exact finances over the last couple of years, and he probably hasn't sunk much of his own money in. But at the same time, you know, he's not stopping us from spending money. He's not taking money out of the club, which is the thing that people say, oh, he's taking our money. He's not. He's not taking anything out of the club. I think the account show he took, it's on the accounts that he's taken 2 million, I think it is. But in actual fact, only 1 million's accounted for. I'm actually taking. So he's not taking money out of the club. He may not be investing. And then you know, we've said it before, and you know, not buying the merchandise, and we complain about Adidas and this sort of thing. For a start, most of the Adidas money goes straight to Adidas for the kits. They've already paid their money. But what they'll be looking at is how much they will pay us in terms of renewing the agreement will be based on how much merchandise they've actually sold and how much they're making back from it themselves.
Yeah.
Now, we need a big money deal with Adidas to come in, because if we're being run as a self-sufficient club, well, that's the money that comes in to pay for the transfers.
Yeah.
So us actually saying that, oh, we're not going to buy merchandise is counterproductive. It's not going to get the Cronkies out. It's just going to stop Adidas from spending money.
Yeah.
You know, because the Cronkies aren't looking at this as a way of, you know, adding money to their pockets every month. It's a long-term investment for them. They're not going anywhere. So, it's annoying. It's frustrating. In terms of what Arteta's doing there, as I say, it's for me, it's got to be looking at getting transferred.
It's got to be in it. It's got to be like, you know what I mean? He's about to go. He's about to go and play poker, and he just needs to know how many chips he's got to play with. You know, it's literally got to be that. You know, it can't be anything else. And you're just sitting here as an Arsenal fan, hoping that that's exactly the conversation that's been had. But yeah, it's we are all in this kind of position now where we're absolutely fretting in terms of what's going to happen, or more so what might not happen. And we'll head to the comments now because they are still coming in. So we've got here Chris, big up Chris, good evening. But we gave Wenger a new deal, and that maybe led to our decline when we could have easily got Klopp at that time. Matt here, several people think that was Henry now. That was Henry now. I'm not sure what that comment is about, but hey, we've got here Gary. I don't believe that is John Old. I think he's referred to John Henry. Just some old guy. Swarit just coming in. Martial has completed his switch to Sevilla. Okay, interesting. Martial would have been an option for us. Yeah, you know what? We did discuss Martial, you know, quite a while ago. I think it was during this season. I wasn't too keen, but Stephen thought, you know, it might have been something that we could have taken a chance on. But yeah, he's obviously gone to Sevilla now until the end of the season. Brawl in the Championship. Gary, he was there picking up keys to Stan's car in Dubai. Chris, maybe he's just been invited out there for the game. Go and see the stadium that Arsenal paid for from the profits. Keith here, spend some money. He is worth £11 million at least. And he said, should say 11 billion. Right. So before we get on to transfers, and obviously there is a lot to discuss with regards, obviously, the Vlahovic deal falling through, our striker search continuing, and also the news breaking tonight that Newcastle have had a bid rumored to be accepted, £33.5 million bid for Bruno Gomes at Lyon. And that's what's literally blowing up Twitter and the timeline before we came on the live. But before we do that, we're going to talk about one of our current players who at the moment is somewhat alienated or frozen out, and that's Mr. Aubameyang. And also a blast from the past that we don't or didn't really want to be reminded about, which is Mr. Adebayor. So yes, Stephen, are we good to go with?
Give us a thumbs up if you're ready to go.
No
yeah,
problem.
So
right,
someone has joined us in the Cannon Chatter arms. A friend of the show, someone who hasn't been on for a wee bit since he's become more famous. But it's great to have him back in with us. So let's get him on screen, and I'm sure you will all recognise this face. Chris Davison. Chris, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, guys. Pleasure to be back on. As you said, Stephen, it's been a while, hasn't it? I hope both of you are keeping well, and good evening to all of the viewers.
Very good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. A lot has happened since we've last spoken, but all very good, all very positive, and yeah, keeping very busy, especially this time of year and this time of the transfer window, of course. And yeah, although it may not initially appear that not much is happening at Arsenal, it very much, of course, seems as though movements happening behind the scenes, and I'm sure you're both intrigued to sort of find out and wait and see what happens over the next couple of days.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think the last time you were on, you were just about to start work with Football London. How's that all going?
Yeah, it's gone really well, thank you. It's sort of flown by, and I suppose, well, they say, don't you, when you're having fun, when you're having a good time flies, and it has done over the last 6 months. I think it'll be 6 months come the 1st of February that I would have been with Football London. So yeah, it's gone rapidly, but I've enjoyed every moment of it, and hopefully there's still what happens and where the future goes from here. We'll have to wait and see, but I'm hoping that things can carry on with Football London. I've really enjoyed it so far, and yeah, we've done really well. I think I work on behalf of the fan brands team at Football London, and the fan brands department has sort of become its own department, really. And we've got a really, really talented team of people working with us on Arsenal, on Chelsea, the two Manchester clubs, City and United. So yeah, it's really good. They're all fans of those clubs that they're working on behalf, and it's nice to have different voices from different backgrounds, from different age groups, covering the club that they have obviously so much love and respect for. And I think that's really important. Obviously, whether it's Sky, Football London, obviously some of the big newspapers in the country as well, we're obviously fortunate to have some top class journalists across the board, but also it's really nice to see that Football London has provided us this opportunity to have give fans more of a voice as well, because I think that's equally as important. Obviously, without fans, football clubs are nothing. And when you look at a club like Arsenal and just how crucial the fans play a part in it, and the loyalty, the passion that the Arsenal fans have for this football club, it's been really, really good to try and implement that into the work we do at Football London as well. Thank you for all of the kind comments. Good evening to everyone. So really exciting things happening at the fan brands department at Football London, and like I said, I'm really looking forward to see where the future goes from here.
Great. It's been great. I don't know, I've been sort of watching on, and I've kind of left you to and not been hounding you with messages and stuff for a while, but I've been watching on it. It's great to see your career progressing. We talked a lot during the summer. I know you were on with us quite a bit on the Rumour Mill shows and stuff in the summer, and we had a good relationship, and really pleased to see that things are coming together for you, because I know at the time, obviously, you were sort of in and out of things, and waiting for that big opportunity. So I'm so pleased that you've got that now.
Thank you.
And you're doing well for yourself. It's great to see, and fair play to you. And who knows, maybe one day you'll invite us on your show,
You never know. You never know.
You never
I'd
know.
love to, though. I'd love to. That's the dream. I think there's so many people in it. Obviously, when we've spoken before, getting into the journalism industry is a passion of mine, is an ambition of mine, and of course, replicating some of the work that the industry's most respected people have done and the level that they've reached is, of course, my ultimate goal as well. But one step at a time. I'm still very young, and I appreciate that where I am right now. I'm very fortunate. I'm very lucky, and it's a great step in the right direction. And as I said, what we're building and what we're going to attempt to continue building at Football London with fan brands is very unique. It's very special, and it's had a really, really good start. And that's all thanks to the incredible work that the team has put into it. So appreciate the kind words, Stephen. Thank you very much. And obviously the sky's the limit in terms of this stuff. We always aim to be the best version that you can be. I remember saying it before, and I was struggling, last year before this opportunity with Football London come about. In and out of freelance work, there was no consistency there, and there was times that I nearly gave up because it was very hard industry to get into. As opportunities were very rare like this. But anyone who watches this and tunes in, who are also looking to get into the journalism industry and has a passion for reporting on sport, talking about football, keep pursuing it. Okay, it may take time to get where you really want to be, but just keep pursuing your dreams and your ambitions, because I can assure you eventually someone will look at you and pick up your work and go, we could use you. You got something. So never ever give up. I think that's been the key for me, and something that I've learned over the last 12 months.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, listen, Chris, I appreciate you don't have a massive amount of time, even less time at the minute with this time of year, as you say. So I know we have a couple of other things to talk about. We're going to jump to transfers now. I'm going to pass back over to G because he's on hosting duties tonight. And let's have a chat about some of the transfer gossip that's going around at the minute.
Definitely, yeah. No, thank you for that. But yeah, so we were going to talk about obviously Aubameyang and some of the most recent comments with regards to Adebayor. But if we've got time, we'll kind of track back at the end. But yeah, as we've got you, Chris, welcome. Really good to have you. Really good to hear from you again. Obviously, the news, breaking kind of last night, early hours of the morning was that obviously Vlahovic, decided, his future laid, or lied with Juventus. I think a lot of Arsenal fans around the world got pretty invested in this potential transfer. I must admit, I was one of them. The prospect of having a player of his stature at his age and with his ceiling was really, really exciting. Now, obviously, that's happened. I'll bring up this image so you kind of got a bit of a you got the players in front of you. But yeah, so the Vlahovic deal is dead. By all accounts, he's going to be signing for Juventus. Everything's pretty much agreed. But yeah, just kind of your views, your opinions on obviously that deal falling through and not materializing for Arsenal. And also, what is your opinion based on some of the other strikers that we've been linked with this window that are featured in this image, and also your perspective? So it's kind of three questions here. So Vlahovic still potential incomings for another striker, and just your general perspective of whether Arsenal, handled the Vlahovic deal in the best way possible. Did they go for their top target and waste too much time, or do you necessarily feel like they've got their plan B, C, D option and they're kind of just, playing a bit more of a shrewd game in this market?
Well, I think to begin with, in terms of the Vlahovic situation and obviously the outcome, the apparent outcome at this time with him going to Juve, I think as you touched on there, it's obviously a big disappointment. It's hard not to sort of get mixed up with the excitement because we're talking about a very young, talented player who has the potential to go right to the very top in football. He's been breaking records in Italy. I think one set previously by Cristiano Ronaldo, and we all know about him. We don't need to go in depth about him. But I think Arsenal wouldn't have pursued this deal for such a long time this month if they did not believe they had a real chance of getting him. And I think when you look at the situation now compared to what it could be come the summer, I can understand why they went hard for him, because all of a sudden you're going to have many more top clubs around the world, around Europe, whether that's your Barcelonas, your PSGs, your Real Madrids, your Manchester Cities, more open to a move like this come the summer, when clubs are more open to negotiating for their star men. The players are more open to joining at the end of the season as well, rather than halfway through it. There's lots of different factors that can play into it. So I can understand and appreciate why Arsenal thought, you know what, we need a striker, and Dusan Vlahovic is an option out there which really excites us. We know that come the summer, it's going to be a lot more difficult to get this one done. Let's just try. And I think that's what the club have done. Of course, that the apparent outcome and the reported outcome of him going to Juve, that's disappointing. You know, we'll lose out on a player who I mentioned a moment ago has got immense potential, is quite clearly very, very talented. I think the attributes that he carries as well as a player really would fitted in with the Premier League. You know, he's quite physical, he's strong, he's good in the air, he's got great technical ability. And of course, his age, his profile, and his potential all matches with what Arsenal and Edu want in terms of their transfer strategy at the club. We saw that in the summer. So, of course, this development is disappointing. But for me, and I know a lot of Arsenal fans, it'll be easy for them to overlook this and it's easy for you to say that. But at the same time, as much as it is disappointing, I think we should take a little bit of positivity away from this, should I say, because it proves that we are aiming to be an ambitious club. We've tried our best to sign him, we've tried our best to push a move for him, but for whatever reason, we just haven't been able to get it over the line. I think it says a little bit more about the player as well. He's obviously not comfortable moving to the Premier League just yet. He's staying in the Serie A with Juventus. I think if he really wanted to go out there and prove himself, if he's hungry to go out there and prove himself and to move on to something new, let's say, then he would have chose Arsenal or another Premier League club. So that's what I think on the initial thoughts of him going to Juve and turning down Arsenal. I think the second part, and look, you had the picture up there of Jovic, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Alexander Isak as well. I think that the Jovic one, I would only be okay with that if that was a short-term deal. And I think when you look at these other options that were on those pictures just then, all of them scream out to me, sort of long-term options, someone who can come in and really boost the club's chances of achieving its targets over the next 3 to 4, 5 years. Whereas Jovic, I think it would be more of a risky move because he's not really gone on to prove himself like some of those other names in that picture have done. He obviously had a great season a few years back in the Bundesliga with Eintracht Frankfurt, scored many goals in one season. That enabled him to have this chance at Real Madrid. They came in for him, but he hasn't been able to live up to the hype. I think if we were unable to get an Alexander Isak, a Dominic Calvert-Lewin over the line in this window, for example, Luka Jovic is a great short-term option. Maybe we could look to do a deal similar to Martin Odegaard last season when we got him on that 6-month loan. Yeah. But reports have also stated today that Real Madrid aren't looking to loan him out. So I think, as I said, I don't think Arsenal would have pursued Dusan Vlahovic for this long if they genuinely didn't think they were in for an opportunity and in for a good chance of getting him. Now, there's only a few days left, and it seems as if the outcome of that saga is coming to a close now. Arsenal have got to act quickly. They really have. I think you sort of put it in the question just then, G. Arsenal would have a plan B. Arsenal would have a plan C, for example. They're not that naive and not that stupid. That's what they spend in between, the summer and January. This is what they plan on. Okay, it might be a real case scenario that we actually can't get our number one target, but we have a number 2, we have a number 3, and so on. What they've got to evaluate now is, and considering, because they wouldn't have had as much of an idea a few months back, but they have a very good idea now of, how Arsenal are doing this season, where they are in the table, what they need to just get that, nick that fourth spot come the end of the season. They know what other clubs around them are doing as well at this moment in time. Now they need to evaluate whether or not their plan B, their plan C is good enough to help them achieve where they are and or reach where they want to be, come the end of the season. I think because we're in the winter window and, it can be very easy to go, all right, we can't get him, but we can get him. Let's just snap it up, make the fans happy. Arsenal fans are happy that we got someone rather than no one. But that can do more harm than good. We've seen that in previous windows. We'll go out and panic buy someone for the sake of it. Yeah, it really doesn't work in our favour. And I think that's the next the next step for the club. I think they'll go and look, okay, Dusan Vlahovic is a no-goer, but can our alternative, our targets, help us achieve top 4 this season? And it's a big decision for Arteta and Edu to make. I can appreciate some fans' skepticism because I'm not saying more often than not, because I don't think that's the case, but there has been some transfer dealings since Edu and Arteta joined the club which you can question, okay, such as especially those early ones: Cedric, Pablo Mari, Willian. We've seen instances and scenarios where they have got or have made the wrong calls. However, I personally think that, and I'm sure you two will agree, because there's obviously the overall feeling has been very positive around the summer and the summer recruitments. And, we brought in 5 players, all aged 23 and under. It was a big risk, but I think so far it's paying off. Okay, maybe Sambi Lokonga's struggling a little bit at times, but again, he's still young. He's got a lot of development to go through, but he's shown glimpses of his talent and potential. And I was actually encouraged by the summer. I thought it was a fresh and it was a new approach. It was needed after deals, like the Willian one. Pains me just to mention his name and look back at his time in an Arsenal shirt. It really was a horrendous bit of business. But that's what I mean. Things like that should be a learning curve for the football club. So, I carry more encouragement surrounding Edu and Arteta's transfer dealings than what I did beforehand, especially, in the earlier stages of their time at the football club. So I do trust them to a certain extent to get this right. They've got to get it right, whether it's a new striker or whether it's a new central midfielder. They have got to get it right. I've said, even with the January window approaching, and I was saying last year, this window could make or break our season. For me, it's as simple as that. With the situation we find ourselves, with the position we find ourselves in the table at the moment, with how recent results have gone our way, recent results surrounding some of the other clubs around us as well. If we get a top-class centre mid and a top-class striker this window, my optimism levels, and I'm sure the same for everyone, will just instantly, receive a massive, massive boost. There's no guarantee that if we are to even get a top centre mid and striker in over the next few days, there's no guarantee that they'll secure us a top 4 place. But again, it's another step in the right direction. It's building on what we were able to do in the summer, and ultimately it does. Technically, it will give us better chances of securing a top 4 place this season. Even if we don't, we've got those players here. Hopefully, for the long term, they're committed, and they're excited by what we are trying to build at Arsenal and Arteta's project and the direction that we're heading in. So, honestly, I can't sit here and tell you what will happen over the next few days because I haven't got a clue. I really think it could go either way. But it's encouraging to learn that Arsenal are actively looking at other targets despite this Vlahovic setback. So I've not lost hope just yet. I think especially with Arteta flying over to the US to have a chat with Stan. I found that rather interesting, or certainly the timing of it interesting. I know there's a break in the Premier League now, but Arsenal should be prepping to obviously fly out abroad for a warm winter training camp. But Arteta still found time to go out and have a chat with Stan, which I find quite interesting. And, to a certain extent, I find that reassuring a little bit because for me, it tells me personally, the indication that I get from that is Arteta's gone over there to have a chat with Stan about the next few days of the transfer window, what the club hopes to achieve, maybe how much we're going to need to spend. And he's gone over there to ask a few favours, I would imagine. But the fact that he's gone over there, obviously they've had a chat, they've had meetings. I'm sure Josh has had a say in this as well. He's been very active in the talks alongside Arteta, Edu and Stan, and hopefully they've got a few tricks up their sleeve. I said it last night on Twitter, when the Vlahovic news dropped, and I've been tempted to tweet a few things tonight as well in reaction to the Bruno Guimaraes update. Like I said, I really hope they have one or two tricks up their sleeve, because that I have the same concern as everyone else. If we don't get the right players in on the necessary recruitment done over the next few days, and I of course I worry for the rest of the season. It's a big window for us, absolutely.
Yeah. So in terms of obviously, forget the journalist side of things. Forget the rumors and all the stuff that's circulating at the moment. But just from an Arsenal fan's perspective, in terms of the strikers, obviously we've missed out on Vlahovic. But in terms of the strikers that we're currently being linked with, forget even Jovic, given, it's only really talking about a 6-month loan. From the 3 main other targets that we seem to be linked with for several windows now, Isak from Sociedad, DCL from Everton, and Jonathan David from Lille. Just as an Arsenal fan, if you was at Arteta, if you was Edu, or just from a fan's perspective, literally, who are you going for and why?
Well, if the owners turn around and told me that money isn't an issue and I have a free pick, I'd probably go for Isaac. I think he's a player that's enjoyed. He's a player who's enjoyed rapid growth and progress over the last few years in particular, and for me, he really caught the eye at the Euros, and I remember his technical ability on the ball. He's a tall, lanky striker, but actually he's got great feet as well. He can beat his man, run through on goal. He's got a bit of pace. He's obviously got the height for any aerial balls into the box. And he's a very, very good finisher. I suppose the only concern that I do have around him is he's had a bit of a staggered season. Hasn't scored as many as I'm sure he would have hoped for.
4 goals he's got this season.
Yeah, and I think when you factor that into the reported release clause, which I think is over 60 million, isn't it, or something along them lines, then, it's a big gamble. But then again, moving on to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who could be, available for a similar price, there's risks. I think with any player that Arsenal go for, whether it's a central midfielder or whether it's a striker in this window, in the future, there's always going to be risks. I mean, we're obviously being heavily linked with Artur from Juventus. Yeah. And that's great. Central midfielder, skillful on the ball. He's got that sort of Santi Cazorla-esque look about him when he's obviously quite short, but he's very composed. He's a great dribbler, picks out a great pass. But again, he's struggled at Barcelona. He's struggled at Juventus, despite being really, really good in Brazil, catching the eye and leading many to believe that he was sort of the next big product from South America. So, when you factor those struggles in with the reported 18-month loan deal that Juventus prefer, it's a risk, and there's no guarantee that he'll come in and fix our problems in the middle of the park. So I think in terms of potential and overall quality, and sort of the abilities that he possesses, I'd go with Isaac. He's a player that really does intrigue me. But I'd be more than happy with Dominic Calvert-Lewin as well. And I think you can't really directly compare the two, because obviously one's in the Premier League, one isn't. We know that one's Premier League proven. Again, the injury concerns that he's had this season, leave a bit of a question mark hanging over him. But it's been reported, I think, by quite a few sort of injury specialists that the struggles he's had with injury this season shouldn't sort of be anything long term and affect his future moving forward. So, I think it's good that, as I mentioned earlier, lots of different names floating about, and it's common sense, for Arsenal to have a long list of names. And I mean, I don't know why they really call it a short list, because there's never really a short list, is it? But that we've always got to remember that it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to just go and snatch up Dusan Vlahovic's alternative just like that. It's like I said to you a moment ago, G. This is why the club will now be having talks and having meetings, speaking amongst themselves, and evaluating the outcome of Vlahovic, and then turning to each other and really having serious thoughts on whether or not the plan B, the plan C, is really worth going for this month. So I'd also be surprised if Everton are up for letting Dominic Calvert-Lewin go this month. If I'm being perfectly honest, they're obviously in talks to get a new manager in halfway through the season as well. They'll be looking to bounce back strongly in the second half of the season and finish the campaign strongly. The only thing that's really on our side is that Everton, of course, their struggles are clear for all to see right now, and they've been going through a very rough patch ever since the season begun. And of course, you begin to wonder if is that going to turn the player's head a little bit? Will that make him more open to a switch halfway through the season?
We've got that as a gooner as well, isn't it?
Yes. I've seen that he's been praising of the Arsenal before, so of course that's another factor that will go in our favour, of course. So like I said, it's encouraging, but at the same time we're playing it very, very dangerously with only a few days left. It's not going to be easy, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. Obviously, Stephen, I'm not gonna. Well, I know out of those players who you would generally go for, but I don't know how long we've got you for, Chris. Hopefully, we've got you for a little bit longer. But I'm going to come to you, Stephen, with regards. Obviously, we were all set for doing this show, and in about 20 minutes or so before the show happened, the news broke, and I think sent Arsenal Twitter into a bit of a meltdown. The news that Newcastle obviously have bidded £35.5 million or £33.5 million for Bruno at Lyon. Now, other rumours, not necessarily confirmed, is that the bid has been accepted. Now, I know you're a massive fan of this midfielder. So just kind of give me, I know how you were feeling because we were off air at the time, but just give those watching a little insight into how you're feeling and just how you would expect Arsenal to react to this, given obviously our midfield shortcomings that we've got in our squad.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret I'm a fan of him. I was saying, before he even went to Lyon, we should have been buying him. We should have been snapping him up 2 or 3 years ago. The word was that it was going to be hard to get him out of Lyon in this window. That was the thing. And Juventus were apparently interested. We were apparently interested, but it looked like he was going to stay to the end of the season. And he was still a target for Arsenal, but potentially a long-term summer target. The fact now that, Newcastle are coming in and dropping the money, and Newcastle are throwing money about at the minute, just trying to get anybody. The one thing I would say, and fair play to Newcastle, is they're not going to be bullied into paying more than they have to, and we've seen that with the defender.
Diego. I can't remember his surname. The one for Sevilla.
Carlos.
Yeah, Diego Carlos.
Yeah. They were originally, I think, quoted 30 million, and then the price went up to like 38, and they've backed out of that deal and said no. So they're not going to be bullied. Whilst they'll throw money about, they're not going to be bullied for it. So fair play to Newcastle for that, but at the same time, they're bidding for everybody. And why not? When you've got that sort of money, why not bid?
Yeah.
The issue for me would have been with them was if we were serious about going for Guimaraes, then Olias is a nightmare to deal with at Lyon. And you would think that he would be going, right, well, I could get a bidding war going here between Newcastle and Arsenal. The fact that he's come out and it looks potentially that this bid's been accepted, for me, if Edu's not going and slapping the same, matching that bid, slapping the money on the table, and given the fact that we have the relationship with Kia Jeromshin, who is, Bruno Guimaraes' agent, we should be able to get this deal done. surely we are a more attractive proposition than Newcastle.
At least
What can
being the
Newcastle
running.
offer over Arsenal? You know, I don't get it at all. I mean, there's potentially goes there and they get relegated at the end of the season. You know, and what's that going to do for his career? So, I mean, surely if it's between us and them, he comes to us. But if Eddie doesn't go and slap a bit on the table, serious questions have to be asked, especially, you know, when it looks like we're getting our hand forced by Juventus to take Arthur on an 18-month loan when we initially only wanted a 6-month loan, and they want the 18 months with not an obligation, but an option.
An option to buy, yeah.
You know, and we're getting our hand forced to take that when we could just go and pay the money and get Grimerish. It doesn't make sense. So, yeah, serious questions would have to be asked of Edu. And it sounds harsh saying that because I know we all kind of, in the summer, I mean, we talked about it often enough in the rumour mill, and I mean, Chris with us when we were talking about that, you know, about what was Edu doing? You know, he busy going off on holidays and stuff. And we all sort of went, oh, we don't want any of these signings that we're being linked with. And, you know, how many times do we sit there and go, oh, we don't want this player? I mean, like Aaron Ramsdale, we all said, nope, don't want him. He's not good enough. And we've all been left eating humble pie. And it was kind of the same for Edu. We all said, no, he's not doing a good enough job. And we all kind of then went afterwards, oh, well, actually, yeah, he did do a pretty good job. We're kind of eating the humble pie on it again. And we've gone full circle to we're back to, you know, what's he doing? What's going on? Why are we 6 days from the end of the window?
We've got 6 days. Still time.
We've got slightly more days than we have midfielders in our squad. But, you know, it's coming close to matching up. Something needs to be done. And I don't think I could forgive Edu if Grimerish goes to Newcastle and we end up with Arthur Mello.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for that. Chris, I'll come to you. Obviously, you've heard what Steve has had to say about Gomeres. Just, kind of your reaction, obviously, with regards to the Newcastle bid. Rumours, unconfirmed that it's been accepted. You know, how do you rate the player? And, you know, if not Bruno Gomeres, who, in terms of, you know, should Arsenal be targeting this window for our midfield shortcomings?
Well, big fan of Bruno, and Arsenal are as well, which if this was to progress any further with Newcastle, then it makes it even more conflicting and confusing because Bruno is a player that Arsenal have followed for a very long time prior to Lyon when he was back in Brazil. And he's a player that Edu's very familiar with as well. And they know his representatives quite well after dealing with him before. And he's a player that they've tracked very closely and monitored since he did have that big move from Brazil to Lyon. And ever since he's moved to Lyon, he's been a big success, especially, you know, this season he's carried on growing and developing as a player, looking very good each week, putting in some very good performances, quite clearly talented, and he's quite clearly someone that is just going to continue getting better and better. As soon as his name popped up on social media tonight, I thought, oh, here we go. I hadn't actually read the whole thing, but I thought this isn't going to be anything to do with us. Juventus are probably going to, you know, make us suffer even more and get Vlahovic and Bruno. But obviously it turns out that Newcastle have made an offer for him. I think we were all sort of waiting for them to really put a big offer on the table for someone. Obviously, since their takeover, obviously they've already got Kieran Trippier through the door, which is a good addition for them. But you just felt that their business wasn't done there. I know obviously they got Chris Wood, which I was actually quite surprised by. But you thought, hang on a minute, with the money they've now got injected into them, they're going to be more ambitious. They're going to go for some big names. And Bruno, I think, is their first big name that they've really obviously gone for, aside from Trippier and Diego Carlos. Bruno Guimaraes is the one that will create the most excitement so far for them. And obviously he's a player that excites a lot of Arsenal fans. You know, the upset the meltdown that then followed on Twitter after that news broke, I think says it all.
Yeah.
You'd think we'd just been relegated or something, but no, it was all because Newcastle made a bid. But I can understand the frustration and the disappointment with that. But just because they've made a bid doesn't mean they're getting him.
Mm-hmm.
I was speaking to the work group chat after that news broke, and I was like, well, okay, that's all fair and well. Newcastle tabling an offer for him, and credit where credit's due, a pretty fair play, ambitious move. But now the player's got to accept it, and if Bruno accepts this, I'll be shocked because
Same.
Stephen said it a moment ago. He's potentially joining a club that may not even be a Premier League club next season. They could be Championship. They're very much not out of the waters yet, down on the bottom of the table. And I think despite, they could get Bruno, they've got Chris Wood, they've got Kieran Trippier, they've bolstered the team in different areas, but they still need a lot more than them three to have a chance of staying up, or to even have a chance as growing as a football club and pushing on to the to bigger and better things. I've just come up, David Ornstein's just tweeted that Lingard's proposed move to Newcastle was on the verge of collapse. So that one seemingly not going through for them. I think if say Newcastle were to just finish the window with someone like Bruno, I don't feel that confident for them. If I'm being honest, I think they need a lot more than that, and Bruno would be putting himself in a very risky position. The reports have quite clearly stated, and it's no surprise because of Newcastle's situation now and it moving to England, the Premier League, that he will be getting significantly better pay at Newcastle, and the wage package will be better. So I can see obviously why that would entice him, but if he's got any ambition, and if he wants to play Champions League football, if he wants to be part of a football club that is in a more healthier position, should I say, in the league table, and their long-term Premier League status is secure, then I just can't see why he would join Newcastle. And that's no disrespect to Newcastle. I'm really glad now they're finally in a position where they've got rid of someone who quite clearly wasn't bothered about the football club, and now they've got very ambitious owners in with a lot of money. Of course, that's great, and I'm sure we'll see evidence of their financial power, not just obviously this window, but in the coming windows, and they'll keep pushing to strengthen and progress as a football club. But that is just how I see them at the moment. I still think they've struggled since Eddie Howe's come through the door, and with the business they've done so far, I just don't think it's still going to be enough to really give them a good chance of staying up. I think they'll still find it difficult. Of course, like any team who strengthens in this window, it bolsters their chances of finishing the season strongly. But I just think Newcastle, one of those teams that's still struggling a little bit, and it's going to take a lot more than Bruno Guimaraes to turn their luck around. I can see that actually being a move come the end of the season where Bruno is like, well, have I actually made the right choice here? If he was to make that switch. So I'd be very, very surprised if it went through personally, because I just think that the player can do so much more, with all due respect, do so much more better. So, I'm not getting too carried away. Yeah, look, honestly, and this is just my personal thought and view on it, I wouldn't be surprised if we all woke up tomorrow and we read that Arsenal have responded with a bid. I wouldn't be surprised, because I think we're getting to that stage of the window now where they know they need to be quick. They know they need to move. They know they need a solution and a top. Arteta said it himself. They want players to come in who will make a difference to this team, who will improve the team. And Bruno Guimaraes is one of those players. And if Newcastle have made an offer, they've made that offer because quite clearly they've received indication from Leon and his reps that a move is possible. So,
true.
That should encourage Arsenal to make a move as well. I think it would be very underwhelming if, and Stephen hit the nail on the head a moment ago, be very underwhelming if Arsenal do not make a move for Guimaraes, yet they proceed with their pursuit of Artur. That would anger a lot of Arsenal fans, in my opinion. And I think just to end that question from you, G, you said, if not Bruno, if not Artur, who else?
Yeah.
The only way this would make sense, okay, if we weren't to make a move for Bruno, is because we've already lined up Tielemans, and he's going to come to London Colney on deadline day to sign his contract as an Arsenal player. That is a sort of move that would make more sense because he's a top quality player. He's Premier League proven. It'll be a big move like that, which makes me feel more at ease of us potentially losing out on Guimaraes, for example. But anything's possible. It doesn't seem as if anything's set in stone yet. Things can happen, change a lot in the sort of final stages of the window. So we'll have to wait and see how it goes and how it develops over the next few days. I'm sure there'll be more updates on Bruno tomorrow.
Yeah, it's really hard, it is. I went into this window and I thought to myself, you know what, we're in a good place. Obviously, last couple of games it's been a bit of a bad run, but I very much went into this window thinking, as you said, kind of invested and reinvested a bit more trust into Edu and Arteta, particularly after the summer with regards to the signings that were made. And to be honest, I would say if most of them, if not all of them, I wasn't generally a fan of. I much preferred the idea of bringing Maddison in over Odegaard. Tavares I hadn't heard of. Tomiyasu I'd never seen play. Ramsdale wasn't a big fan. Sambi, again, until the rumours broke, I didn't know who he was. So I did go into the season feeling somewhat underwhelmed. And those players have massively, contributed to proving me wrong. So I kind of went into the window in that mind frame that I'm just going to see how it goes and I'm going to put my trust in both Arteta and Edu. But I don't know, as the days tick by, I think the Vlahovic deal falling through was a massive dent, even though I think most Arsenal fans didn't realistically think he probably was going to join, but it was still hard to watch. Obviously, the rumours break that he's going to sign for Juventus. I think the Bruno thing, again, is caused somewhat of a meltdown on overreaction on Twitter, but I get it because we're all passionate Arsenal fans. We want to be signing players, but with obviously tomorrow being 5 days until the transfer window closes, are there any rumors or anything cooking in the background that you could potentially give us a little insight on to give us some hope?
Well, it's not from anything that I've heard personally, but I know one of my colleagues at Football London, Chris Wheatley, who both of you and who the viewers will know very well, a great person, great journalist covering Arsenal at Football London. He was speaking on a YouTube channel the other day, and I think it was Babs 14. You may have heard it or may have seen it at the time, but Chris was speaking on there, and he reported that personal terms have been agreed with. And I know Arsenal. I know what the reaction is going to be to this. Who cares about a goalkeeper? That's not what we need. But personal terms have been agreed with Matt Turner, who's a goalkeeper for MLS side, New England Revolution. That could be an indicator that, of course, things are happening in the background with Bernd Leno, and talks are ongoing regarding his future. Because I can't see us getting a goalkeeper through the door this window. If Bernd Leno's staying, I think if we get a new goalkeeper, then that's Leno out the door, in my opinion.
We're not letting Leno go to Newcastle now.
Well, Well, you can have him Newcastle. You can have him Eddie, as long as you give us Bruno. But look, I think we saw it last January. Actually, was it last January? I lose track of time now. When we actually got Matty Ryan through the door, it seems like ages ago now.
I think it was last January.
Yeah, it seems ages ago. But that came out of nowhere, didn't it? That literally Arsenal just announced it, and boom, there he is in an Arsenal shirt. It wouldn't surprise me if Arsenal are looking to try and keep things under wraps as much as they possibly can do going into the final days of the window. Look, I think they'll be working as hard as they possibly can be in the background. We don't obviously all know that the details behind the scenes. There'll be a lot more going on what we actually know. I think that's what I always think and feel quite strongly on. in every transfer window. And it's like I said earlier, it's impossible to predict what will happen over the next 5 days. I think we'll get a centre mid at least, and I think we'll push really hard to get a striker. I think because it's been something that's been rumbling on all month. We've obviously tried very hard for Dusan, it hasn't worked out. I think they'll look at alternative options. Whether or not we can get that done, it's a completely different matter. And it, of course, leaving it so late in the winter, because you got to remember, if we're going for a big name like your Isaacs, like your Jonathan Davids or Dominic Calvert-Lewin's, for example, okay, yeah, we could table a really, really strong offer, but then the club that they're at, they're going to want a replacement. They're going to want, lots of different. There's going to be lots of different factors that sort of turn into it. You know what I mean? So, I think it's going to be a very complicated, a very long 5 days. But I think Arsenal are, and I think Arsenal will continue trying their utmost to get something over the line. I think Arteta said it last week or the week before that Edu and his team are working very hard. But as we know, and this is not me finding excuses for the club, because I just like you two, like everyone else watching, like the Arsenal fan base as a whole at the moment, I'm annoyed that we've got to the 25th of January and we haven't been able to bring through anyone through the door. And that is in addition to letting someone like Ainsley Maitland-Niles go out on loan. I think it's a big, big risk. And with how results have gone since, you can't sit here and say that it was the right decision. I think was it against Watford? Ainsley Maitland-Niles played as a central midfielder and he got man the match. He was fantastic. And over the last few weeks,
every time he's put on the shirt and come on as a sub this season, for me, he's put in a decent show.
He's someone who gives 110%. G, I think quite a lot of people forget that. Okay, he may not have been happy. He wants to play more football. I mean, he's young. He's relatively young still. He's still got a lot of years left in him. He wants to be playing football. He wants to be growing and developing as a player. Of course he does. So I can understand his frustration. But when you look at his performances when he has come on or featured for Arsenal, and most notably that man of the match performance against Watford a few months ago, compared to now, and this is again no disrespect to Sambi, okay, he's a young player, he's got a lot of development and a lot of learning to go through, and we knew that when he came through the door. Everyone who watched him and knows him well, whether it's Thierry Henry, Vincent Kompany, Mikel Arteta, they all said, he's got bags of potential, he's quite clearly talented, but he will need time. And I remember saying back in the summer when we got Sambi through the door, I thought, but surely he's not going to be the only one that comes through the door. I mean, surely we're going to go out and get someone more experienced, someone who's got a bit more quality, someone who's a bit more ready. Of course, we've done the really exciting thing of giving Granit Xhaka a new contract, which I was absolutely delighted about, tongue in cheek. And I mean, look, can you say it's really paid off so far? Not in my opinion. I think, okay, he had that bad injury against Tottenham, and since he came back, I thought he's done okay. But enough of this Xhaka hype, please. We can absolutely get an upgrade on Granit Xhaka. Okay, can he play an important part for Arsenal? Yes. Can he be a very important squad player? Yes. Can he do a good job when he comes into the team every now and then? Yes. But the constant suspensions, the silly mistakes that he makes, I've had enough of it. I've had enough of it, and I think it's got to the point now. Well, I mean, he's one of the longest lasting members of this Arsenal team now at Arsenal, and I think I remember saying in the summer, and I said exactly the same thing about Hector Bellerin. I'll thank him for the service at Arsenal Football Club. Wish him all the best. But now was the time, or then was the time, to just accept that change was needed, bring someone new in through the door, someone fresh, who would add something different in the centre of midfield. And of course, we ended up giving him a new contract because he's really important to the team, apparently, when he's actually on the pitch. So, I mean, I read earlier actually that Roma are hoping to maybe get him on loan or something this month. But that wouldn't make sense considering the current sort of midfield crisis we're having at the moment. But yeah, That's enough about Xhaka. I don't know how I ended up on speaking so passionately on him. But
It's all good.
yeah, we need to be ambitious, G.
Yeah.
You know, and I know it's such a difficult one because there's only such little time remaining in the window now, and it's going to be difficult. I think we need to brace ourselves to maybe be disappointed. I think that's the best thing to do rather than getting your hopes up and thinking we're going to get Isaac and come in for Bruno or whatnot. But we need to just approach the last few days with caution, sit tight. I know it's not easy, and
It's hard.
just see. It is hard. Just see
It's
what
hard.
happens.
My screen time. I think my screen time over the next couple of days, over the last couple of days, just been horrendous. I've literally just on my phone, just refreshing the timeline continuously. So no, thank you for that. It's really, really interesting. Really, really interesting from you, Chris. The last thing that I'm going to come to Stephen first on this before I come to you on this, Chris. And then I know your time is precious, so we will let you go. But obviously, we've spoken a lot about strikers. And, you know, as Chris has kind of mentioned, you know, there is no guarantee that one, we're going to get the striker we need in between now and the 31st, or two, even if we get that striker, that, you know, they're going to hit the ground running and actually, you know, confirm or guarantee us, you know, top 4 spot. Now, having said that, I'm going to bring up this image, and most Arsenal fans probably right now will grimace at this image for various reasons. Just want to obviously credit at Team Talk on Twitter with regards to this image, which I nicked, which I thought was fantastic. So on the image here, for those listening, we've got obviously Aubameyang and the one and only Adebayor. He decided to chip in with his opinion with regards to this situation. And he basically said, since the first problem that happened at Arsenal, I know he's definitely going to be through a lot. Because that's Arsenal for you. You can do whatever you do. They never learn or they never know how to forgive. But at Arsenal, a way back, I would be surprised. Now, I'll come to you first, Stephen, on this, because I know you definitely, like all Arsenal fans, got an opinion. And I've got to say, before I come to you guys, this really, really annoyed me. You know, I don't often react to things, but I literally just every time it was posted by whichever platform it was posted, I just replied clown emoji, clown emoji, clown emoji, literally, because I felt like, you know what, if I actually write what I feel, I'm probably going to get banned from Twitter. So I just wrote a clown emoji. But yeah, coming to you, Stephen, on this. First of all, you might not even want to comment on Adebayor's comments, but just the whole, feel free if you do, but just the whole situation with Aubameyang. Right now, we have Laka in the team. We have Eddie in the team. It's kind of unclear what we're going to be doing with Aubameyang. There's lots of rumors about Saudi Arabia. He doesn't fancy a move. There's rumors about other European teams like AC Milan being potentially interested in him. But what do we do with Aubameyang if we don't actually get this striker? Is there an argument that he could potentially be reintegrated into the team and help, you know, potentially push us for this top 4 spot?
All right. So the first thing is obviously, I'm just reading some of these comments. I just want to touch a couple of them quickly. Gary, I'm not sure Chris was aware of my 34 movement. I don't refer to him by his name, and we only call him 34, but anybody can call him what they want.
Apologies for that, Stephen, if I've made you a little bit angry there. I mean, I'm exactly the same with Granite sometimes. So I know I said his name again. For the 34.
Sorry, I want to see you tomorrow on your own show. Mention him, but call him 34. You're not allowed to use his name. That's your challenge.
We'll see. I'll see if his name crops up.
Yeah, if it does, just call him 34 and credit me for starting a movement. And Keith, you can swear if you want. We just won't read it out, but you can swear. Right, on Adebayor, I'm going to be honest, that is actually the first time I've seen the quote.
Oh.
I've just ignored it because I couldn't care less what that man has to say. I really couldn't. No interest in anything he has to say. In terms of Aubameyang, it's difficult. It's a really difficult question because we don't know the full extent of what's going on behind the scenes. I don't believe he's been stripped of the captaincy for simply not, turning up on time. Something else has happened. There's more to this. He's, been banished from first team training for a simple case of a couple of times turning up late. There's definitely more to it. Definitely. So it depends what it is. It depends whether Arteta and him can patch up their differences for the good of the club. I said it the other day when you were on the Armoury, and you were talking about Aubameyang, and I said, you know, in terms of his heart problems that were being reported, for me the biggest heart problem was his heart wasn't at Arsenal anymore. And that I think is more the case. You know, does he even want to play for the club? Is his heart there? Does he want to? So, you know, it's all well and good saying, do we integrate him back in? Does he want to be integrated back in? Does he want to make the effort? He doesn't. You know, since he signed that new contract, it doesn't look like he really wants to be there. So it's a tricky one. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to see Aubameyang back on the pitch scoring goals, but he hasn't done it in a year and a half. So why is he all of a sudden going to start doing it now? You know, why bring him back in just to be a body who's not scoring goals, who's not contributing? And we've all said for so long that if he's not scoring goals, he doesn't do anything on the team. And you've seen it. This is one of the things that actually winding me up today, was all these people clamouring for him to be stripped of the captaincy and taken out of the team when he was playing poorly. Then it was the right decision because we went on a run where we scored loads of goals without him in the team and without him in the squad. Now all of a sudden we've had a few bad games, and especially again people who are very much Arteta out are now saying, "Oh well, you know, this is Arteta mismanaging Aubameyang. Bring him back in. You know, this is another one. He's banishing him to the sidelines and stuff." It's like, well, hold on. You didn't want them because he wasn't scoring goals. I didn't want him in the team because he wasn't scoring goals. But I'm not turning around now and saying put him back in the team. He would have to want to be back in the team, and he would have to accept that right now Lacazette is the starter ahead of him. So we would have to get used to the position of not being captain and being an impact sub. And whether someone with Aubameyang's ego is going to be able to accept that or not, I don't know.
Chris, any thoughts on obviously well, you don't have to comment on the Adebayor comments, but yeah, any thoughts on obviously the Adebayor comments, and also just Aubameyang's situation at Arsenal?
Well, I mean, when we look at Arsenal, what it stands for, Adebayor was irrelevant, so I couldn't care less what he's had to say, what he done as a player, and his off the pitch antics. I mean, sum him up for me. Has no class whatsoever. Arsenal Football Club does. So, you know. He's just trying to stay relevant, I guess. Poor lad, but hey ho. Aubameyang. I've been reading that he's not going to go with the squad abroad for this warm winter training camp. Now, initially, when he was left out of the squad. Way back whenever it was for the Southampton game to begin with, I think it was at the Emirates. He was first left out, or was around that time, wasn't it? You know, it was obviously revealed that he'd been stripped of the captain's armband for disciplinary reasons was the reason. I think I'm very much in agreement with what Stephen said. It's not just going to be down to, you know, him being late to a training session or arriving late to a game, or for whatever reasons. There's going to be lots of different factors why he's lost that captaincy armband, and it would have been something that's happened multiple times. I think, you know, it happens once, you get a warning. Happens twice, you know, you're on the edge, you're playing a dangerous game. And then third time, obviously, that's when the club must take action. And he's been left out of the team before, hasn't he? But he's not been excluded from training or training with the rest of the squad like this before. And obviously, it's the first and only time he'll lose the Arsenal captaincy. obviously, you think maybe after 1 or 2 games of this first developing, it'll begin to sort of calm down a little bit. It'll be back training with the team. He'll be back in the squad in no time. But obviously, that hasn't happened. He's missed several match days now. It appears currently, from what reports have stated, that he won't be going abroad with the rest of the squad as well. He'll be staying in the UK.
Yeah, that's big.
I struggle to see a way back for him. I really do, because if all of a sudden we return from abroad in 2 weeks' time and we're back playing Premier League football, and all of a sudden Aubameyang's back in the frame as well, I'll be sitting here thinking, well, hang on a minute, wait, how come he's all of a sudden he's just come back in out of nowhere? He hasn't been abroad. I would find that very strange. It would be very strange after several weeks of him being excluded from the side in the squad training. I think if they receive a suitable offer, which the player likes and the club likes, before the window shuts on the 31st, and I think they'll seriously consider it, whether that's permanent or a loan. And I think, obviously, the fact that Arsenal have been pursuing strikers very heavily as well indicates that they're open to moving on from Aubameyang as well. Yeah. And I think, as much as I love Oba, I appreciate what he's done at this football club. He's been, aside from his little hiccups now and then, as we've learned about, he's been a top class player, and he's always. I was going to say he's always given 100%. I think more times than not, he's always given 110%. But certainly over the last year in particular, his performances have dipped. He's struggled more and more to be involved in the games as well. He's not really contributed as much. Put it this way, he hasn't been the Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang that all of us football fans at Arsenal and all the football fans around the world have been so accustomed to for many, many years now. Whereas that was at Saint Etienne, or obviously Borussia Dortmund in particular. In his earlier stages at Arsenal, he was that player, but over the last year or so, he's been nowhere near the level. And his performances have dipped massively. I think we've obviously given him this new contract. He's one of, or if not the highest earners at the club, but he's 32 years old. He's approaching 33.
Yeah,
I can't imagine Aubameyang returning back to those very high levels that he's been at previously. As I mentioned ago, whether that was in his Dortmund days or his earlier Arsenal days, I just can't see it. I really can't. And with the way this football club is, or the direction this football club is heading in now, in terms of the new transfer strategy, the development of young players, putting more trust in young players as well. I think whether it's this month or come the summer, we're going to bring a new striker in who's in his early to mid 20s, and he's going to take over and he's going to lead Arsenal's front line. I think that's the way it's going to go. And if you were to give me the choice of who to keep out of Lacazette and Aubameyang, I'd quite easily say Lacazette. So it's a shame with how it's developed. But
it is. It really is.
But it's one of those things. It is what it is. It's happened. Arteta's stance seems very, very clear on it, and we know that Arteta's no nonsense when it comes to this side of things. When a player's not, giving it his all, when he's not fully focused, when his discipline isn't where it needs to be, and his attitude's perhaps not been great, that's you're not gonna go far under the management of Mikel Arteta, and I think that's happened with Aubameyang now. It got off to a great start, their relationship. But all of a sudden, the cracks started to appear, and Arteta simply turned around appeared to turn around and say, "Look, enough is enough. I'm not sort of wanting this to creep into the team anymore. I don't want this to have a negative impact on the squad." And he's omitted him from the team and from first team training. So big statement, obviously, big development, and I think if the reports are true and he's not going to be travelling abroad with the rest of the team in the coming days, then I'm not confident that he's got a future at Arsenal. A lot of the players have already, I know some that have already travelled over abroad. So I think Bernd Leno's already over there. He's travelled with the team, but obviously there's no indication that Aubameyang has at the moment. So Yeah, I'm not confident that he's got a future at Arsenal now moving forward. I'd be amazed, put it that way, if he was to able to sort of rekindle the relationship with Arteta and they were to all of a sudden be on the same page again and all is forgiven just like that after what's happened. I'd be surprised.
Cheers. No, definitely. It's just one of those things where I just think, it's like Stephen said, the fan base tends to kind of, flip in between opinions. It's like, obviously, he was omitted from the team. Things were going well. In December, we scored a hat full of goals, and all of a sudden, results have not gone our way. We've not signed Vlahovic, and all of a sudden, sections of the fan base are calling for him to potentially be reintegrated. But as you said, when you look at all the signs and you read between the lines, it's just not looking like that's going to be a possibility. But yeah, that pretty much kind of rounds up tonight's show. Just want to massively thank you, Chris, for coming on and appearing. It's been a while, but it's always an absolute pleasure to have you. Always a pleasure to hear your opinions and your perspectives on all things Arsenal. So before we kind of obviously run through the socials and let the guys know when we're going to be back, just let the guys know in the chat, obviously where they can find you, follow you, and get, hold of any kind of content that you're putting out there.
Yeah, well, thank you guys. I really appreciate you inviting me on tonight. As I said, it's nice because it has been a while since we last spoke on here, so it's really good to be back on here and catch up with you both. So yeah, appreciate it. It's been enjoyable. People can follow me on Twitter at @cdavison_AFC. And I would encourage all the Arsenal fans to go on to the football.london's website, search up the Arsenal Way. I am a content editor for that department, and we've got lots of exciting and interesting transfer related content going out at the moment as well, surrounding Dusan Vlahovic, Alexander Isak, Artur, you name it. Every player that we're being linked with, we're doing some really interesting pieces on. Hopefully, it gives Arsenal fans a different perspective on different potential transfers that can happen. And of course gives them plenty of insight and detail on players that we're being linked with as well. And of course, apart from transfers, we're also providing lots of detailed and interesting content surrounding all things Arsenal that's happening at the moment surrounding the football club. So the Arsenal Way on football.london, encourage everyone to check that out. And hopefully over the next few days we'll be providing lots of positive updates, of course, and lots of positive stories surrounding some exciting transfer targets for Arsenal. Fingers crossed if Edu and Mikel Arteta are awake and ready to make moves.
Cheers. No, thank you for that. Let's all keep our fingers crossed. Quickly, we're going to run through the socials, and then we're going to go through any kind of last minute questions and comments before we wrap up tonight's show. Stephen, can you do the honors for me, please?
Yeah, no worries. Firstly, I just want to take a wee moment and just thank Chris as well. Just to back up what G says, it's great having you back on. It's been too long. I kind of, as I say, I've left you alone because I've given you time to get settled into your new job and stuff. But now we've had you back on. Let's not leave it so long again. Let's get you back on again soon. And I always enjoy our chats and hearing your insight and your thoughts as well as not only a journalist, but it's nice having you on as a journalist, but also as an Arsenal fan.
100%.
So we sort of get the double take with it, which is brilliant. So thank you again for giving us your time tonight. So if you want to follow us, we're on Facebook. It's Canon Chatter. On Instagram, it's Canon_Chatter. On TikTok, at Canon_Chatter. Most of you will obviously know us from Twitter, where we are approaching the 10K mark, which is pretty good for just over a year old. So keep spreading the word. It's at Canon Chatter. If you want to follow me, I have my own personal account, which is at SB Canon Chatter, and G has at G Talks Arsenal. And Lottie, who's not with us tonight, is at Lottie_B, 2 T's and 2 I's, because somebody beat her to it. If you do want to purchase any Canon Chatter t-shirts or hoodies, give me a wee email at info@canonchatter.com or drop me a wee DM at SB Canon Chatter on Twitter. And most importantly, if you're not already subscribing, make sure you do. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and hit the like button. It all helps to get our content out there to more people and grow the Canon Chatter family.
Cheers. Thank you so much, Stephen. Just going to run through some last comments before we wrap everything up. We've got Lee here saying, going to be an interesting last couple of days of the window. Take care all. Joseph, you reckon we will win Wolves away next game? There's no telling really with our level of consistency. I think it will just, obviously we'll be on the air doing a preview to that game. But yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game. A lot more of a tougher game than it was probably at the beginning of the season because they're putting some form together. But we'll definitely cover that over the next couple of shows. Gary here, great show, G, Stephen and Chris. Thank you, Gary. Good night, chat room. Really, Sakar, Stephen, who's winning Old Firm next week? Do you want to answer that?
I'm going to go Rangers.
Rangers. There we go. You heard it here first. Stephen's going for Rangers. And Keith here, great show, guys. Come on, you Gunners. Good night. And that pretty much kind of wraps up everything. Any last words, Stephen, before we go?
Just that in terms of upcoming shows, I'm not 100% sure what we have planned. I know I'm on with the Mr. Arsenal podcast on Thursday night doing their quiz. I think it's 9:30. Then you and I are both back on Friday night on Albert JTV, doing his life stories. And then we will definitely be back one way or another next Monday, with a bit of transfer deadline. I'm not sure just how many shows or what time the shows will be at the minute, but we will let you know on Twitter. And then obviously at some point next week, we'll then do a preview for the Wolves game the following weekend. And Lottie, I'm not 100% sure. I know she had been talking about doing some of the Arsenal ladies content as well. So plenty of stuff coming up, but we will keep you posted on our whereabouts on Twitter.
Yeah, no, definitely. Just to confirm that, like Stephen said, we'll be appearing on a couple other channels Thursday and Friday. We will definitely be back on Monday for transfer deadline day, but we just don't know to what extent how many shows we're going to have. But we'll definitely, even if it's the one show, it will be Monday evening where we come on the air, but we'll keep you posted. Chris, I'm going to literally give you the last word to end tonight's show. Take it away.
No pressure. No, thank you, G. Thank you, Stephen. Pleasure as always. Take care, everyone, and catch you all soon.